Hello everybody, Mobius1 here, bringing you the much long, forever anticipated video of Publish 8's patch notes. Now I just want to get this out of the way ahead of time. This video is going to be pretty boring. This is the truth. I did, to make it a little bit less boring, I have already gone through all of the patch notes, which there are a ton, and I have marked the ones that I want to point out or talk about or at least say something about, so that I will not be literally reading every single line in the patch notes, because you could do that on your own. But I do like to do this just because sometimes some people may not fully understand what something says, or they may not understand the implication that something has. So, with that being said, don't expect anything too exciting this episode, but definitely a lot of really exciting stuff to come from some of the stuff that we're getting in this update. So, let the boring commence. Also, I want to point out, just real quick, appropriately have 8 different slides of patch notes for Publish 8. I thought that was kind of funny, and I did that by complete chance. Alright, so we're going to start at the beginning. Publish 8, A Galaxy Divided. So the system category, I grouped all these together. This is really cool that Publish 8 improved server stability, made some performance optimizations, made some adjustments to reduce server memory usage, fixed some memory leaks, and fixed some more cause of database bloat. You don't have to understand what any of that means to understand that Basilisk is, without a doubt, one of, if not the most stable servers that you can play SWG on right now. I know, like, there are a ton of servers out there, and people are always trying to get me to play other servers, and I explain why I play on Basilisk is because I like the nostalgia that it offers, how it's an accurate emulation of how Galaxy's was pre-CU, and the population is definitely better on Basilisk than any of the other servers, and the stability. I mean, sure, there were times where Basilisk would restart every 24 hours, and there were times where if you were hanging out in a major city like Mos Eisley or Coronet, you would desync and have to soft log. That's been fixed. Like, I haven't had a desync issue in over a month, and Basilisk, the server was just online for almost 6 days straight earlier this week before they had to restart it. Like, it's ridiculous how stable it is, and they're continuing to increase the server stability. So I just wanted to highlight that real quick. But now on to actual stuff. Okay, improved and optimized how random world spawning works. A player no longer needs to be moving for things to spawn nearby. So creatures are going to spawn around you a little bit differently than they used to. You probably won't notice this very often. But one thing that this is going to change that I wanted to point out, because we just ran into this issue the other night, a couple of guildmates and I, it's in prior publishes, since things would only spawn around your character if you were moving. So if you were standing with a group member or whatever, and you guys decide you're going to get on your swoops and go drive somewhere, and your group member spawns their swoop, like generates it from their datapad, and then mounts it without your character moving, that character, your group member, will disappear on your screen. And basically the reason why that is because if you weren't moving when they generate their swoop bike, your client did not realize that they generated their swoop bike, so that when they mount it, your client doesn't know where they went, and that's why they vanished. And then when you start to move, you would see their swoop bike, and you would probably see their swoop bike moving around without a driver. I'm sure many of you have experienced this bug in the past, and this is basically what was causing it, is because before, in order for the swoop bike to generate on your client, you would have to be moving. And then if they had gotten onto it after you moved your character, then it wouldn't have been an issue. But now with this change, that should never happen again, because as soon as they generate that swoop, whether you're moving or not, you should see it pop up. So that bug's been fixed. Maybe. All planets now have a chance to dynamically spawn various spawns that are not unique to the planet. faction spawns, thugs, dark Jedi, etc. I highlight this because while it's not a huge deal, it is interesting that now you're going to see a lot more varied spawns across all worlds. Even the even like the starter worlds, you might actually see, I don't want to say, maybe you will see dark Jedi on like Tatooine and Naboo. That would be interesting, but I'm not sure they would do that. We'll have to find out. The next three I grouped together. So added some spawns to the Talos Imperial versus Rebel Battle POI, added some spawns to the Tatooine Imperial Oasis, and added spawns to the Roy Black Sun Bunker. These I grouped together just because they're all kind of the same thing. They're populating the world with more spawns, more places to go, more things to kill, more things to do. So that's good. When trying to place a structure, the ground around a dynamic spawn is now yellow. This is actually really important because I fell for this once. I had no idea what was going on. When I was trying to place a harvester on a resource node, I did not realize that there was a dynamic spawn in the area, because when you're in the place the structure screen, like the bird's eye view of where you're going to place your building, there's nothing showing me that I couldn't place it, but every time I tried to place it, it would say you cannot place the structure here. And then I finally realized, hey, maybe if I kill these guys over there, then and that spawn moves, then I'll be able to place it, and that in fact was it. So now there will be a visual indication of what is preventing you from placing that. Okay, creatures, NPCs, AI. Mobs now regen ham at a percentage of the max per tick. So we know that now, I think Publish 7 changed that mobs do not regenerate health while in combat, but now once combat is broken, mobs will regenerate ham probably much faster. Because, well, depending on how much health they have, will determine how their max health will determine how quickly they regenerate health. Mobs should no longer aggro through locked doors. That's good, particularly in dungeons such as the Warren or such as the Deathwatch Bunker. I know the Deathwatch Bunker was a lot more challenging lately, or previously, I should say, because mobs could attack you through locked doors. Now that should not happen. Mobs no longer instantly stand after a posture change. This is very important because previously, if you tried to dizzy knock down a target, they would stand right back up. Now, you could actually dizzy and knock down a target, and they may not stand up for a while, and that's going to make it very easy to kill them. So that's cool. The use of certain emotes on Imperial NPCs will now cause them to knock the player down in addition to them being fined. Yeah, I'm going to have a video on that eventually. It's a cute little thing that I don't think everybody knows about that I want to highlight. NPCs will no longer use Intimidate or Force Intimidate. Okay, this is kind of important because a lot of NPCs previously used to intimidate you, and Intimidate kind of it changes the amount of like the minimum and maximum damage that you can do. I believe is what Intimidate does. And there's another note related to this later on, but I just want to point out that the NPCs will no longer use Intimidate or Force Intimidate. We'll come back to that in a minute. Alright, page number 2. Events, dungeons, theme parks, and quests. Much work has been done on the Village, Force Sensitive, and Jedi, but it is incomplete and not ready for mass testing. They will therefore remain disabled for this publish. I've said it a million times, but I wanted to highlight this and say it again. They wanted to do Publish 8, or Jedi in Publish 8. I know a lot of you... The community is very, very split on Jedi, by the way. Some of you cannot wait for Jedi, and some of you think Jedi was like the downfall of galaxies, which it did play a part in the downfall of galaxies, but it was not the only cause. But yeah, Publish 8, they did a lot of work. Like, the Village is... I would dare say the Village is more than halfway finished. So there is a stronger than ever chance that we will be getting Jedi in Publish 9. I would go on record to say that Jedi is going to be their primary focus for Publish 9. But it's just a guess, just a prediction. Anyway, like I said, I wanted to highlight this and just show that they did indeed they did enough work on the village to warrant them putting a little thing in the patch notes saying, hey, because really, what does this line mean? Nothing. Like, it just says, hey, we did a bunch of work. You're not going to notice anything, but we wanted you to know that we did it. Just to kind of keep everybody like, you know, I get it. You're working on it. We understand. So patience, young ones. Patience. Escort mission targets no longer take on the player's faction when the player is on leave. This prevents them from being attacked by mobs that the player cannot attack. This is a very, very important change for theme parks, particularly the Rebel and Imperial theme parks. So, I haven't done the Rebel and Imperial theme parks in a video series yet because they are the longest of the 4 theme parks. But I will at some point do them. And during those theme parks, there are, particularly the Imperial theme park, there are a lot of escort missions where you have to go talk to an NPC and then walk them back or run them back to where you started. And if you do those previously, if you did one of those missions while on leave, and let's say you were a rebel and you're escorting your escort target back to base and there's a group of stormtroopers, since you're on leave, you would not be able to attack those stormtroopers, but for some weird reason, your escort would become rebel since you were rebel, and the stormtroopers would kill your escort and there's nothing you could do about it. Well, now that doesn't happen, so that's good. Fixed a few theme park spawns that would attack each other when they shouldn't. Most notably, the Cadu on the chef mission for the Jabba theme park. This bug has been this bug has been mentioned countless times. There have been multiple forum threads about this. People have sent me personally multiple messages about this, and I see people talking about this all the time in general chat. Yes, there was a bug introduced in Publish 7 when they added like the faction reputation statuses to the different NPCs. That the bug caused these 2 mercenaries that were supposed to be escorting a Cadu. It basically forced them to kill the Cadu before you, the player, could get to it and kill it yourself. And this was important because you were supposed to loot the Cadu, but if the mercenaries killed the Cadu instead, the mercenary NPCs were the ones with loot rights, and therefore you couldn't loot the Cadu, and therefore you couldn't complete the mission. Well, that's been fixed. The Life Day quests can now be repeated each year. I just wanted to highlight that because previously, once you completed the Life Day quests on one character, you could not do it again. Now you can do it every year. So, yay, Wookiee Life Day orbs for all. Player. The new player tutorial has been completely rewritten and re-enabled. That's awesome, because as it stands, prior to this, my channel was pretty much the only source of information. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to say that. It's not the only source of information, but it was a really big source of information for a lot of new players, because the game literally threw you in with nothing. You created your character, you chose a starting location, and that was it. You got no hand-holding at all. So, I'll do a video on the new player tutorial just so we could see what's there, because honestly, I don't remember exactly what Pre-CU's new player tutorial was. I remember the NGE's new player tutorial with the space station you had to go to with Han Solo or whatever. But this one's a little different, and I don't actually remember everything that's in it. So we'll do a little video on that just to see what that's like. But I'm very happy that they got that in there, because now noobs shouldn't be total. Well, yeah, I don't think it's gonna do that great with total noobs. But hey, it'll at least teach people the basics. The new player creation lockout timer is now 1 hour, down from 24 hours. That's a pretty big deal. People were very upset when they, create a character and then wanted to change something, so they delete that character and go to create another character and realize they can't for 24 hours. And then every time they try to create a character, it resets the 24-hour timer. Well, now it's only 1 hour, and that's a big deal. Getting an item from a factory crate will now always place the item into the player's inventory. Not a huge deal, but something that I personally will appreciate. As a doctor, I carry around like Bavoli, which is a food, and Viserion brandy in factory crates that I keep in my backpack. And now when I double click the factory crate to get one of the items out of that, instead of having to drag it into my inventory, because you can't consume items that are in a backpack, now it'll automatically put it into my inventory. So literally going to save me about 1.5 seconds of manual labor, but I appreciate my 1.5 seconds saved. Triple in-cap should more reliably cause death, and the span that they must be within is now 10 minutes, down from 15. So, way back when I first started, I actually took a character out to the Sarlacc pit and then tried to bring him back to Isley, and figured the fastest way to get back was to have some mobs kill me. And I had them in-cap me probably 5 or 6 times, and I did not die. Well, that's been fixed. Now, if you get in-capped 3 times within 10 minutes, you're going to die, whether or not you were in-capped by a baby bunny on Rory. What are they called? Jax? Durney. I think it's Durney. Durney or Durney? I think it's a Durney. Yeah, you get in-capped by that cute little Durney 3 times in 10 minutes, you dead. Added 6-month expiration to in-game mail. Because of the large number of old mails on Basilisk, we're throttling the expiration. This means that not all old mails will be deleted right away. There is no predictable order that the deletions will take place in. Any mail over 6 months old is at risk and might be deleted at any time. Well, I hope you're not a mail hoarder, because you're gonna lose them. Anything that's older than 6 months is at risk of being deleted. There is a way to kind of save mails perpetually. I mean, if you could forward it to yourself and then it'd be a fresh mail. Unfortunately, there's no way to download them or export them out of game that I know of. If anyone knows a way, feel free to share it. But I know the mails, they're not stored locally. They're not client side, they're server side. So I don't see how you'd be able to do that. LD duration is now 3 minutes, so you probably know that when you log out of your character, a little LD appears over your character's head. Well, now that LD and your character will remain in-game for 3 minutes. /logout will now properly remove a player from the world if they're in a safe location rather than sending them LD. So if you log out within any safe location, which I believe is a city, I don't know if a camp counts as a safe location. We'll have to do some testing on that. But a city or inside a player house, I believe, is a safe location. Your character will immediately vanish from the game instead of going LD for 3 minutes. Well, that was only 2 pages. Page 3. We got a lot of stuff to mention here. Combat. The /assist command is now functional. That is great. That means if you are grouped with a buddy and you want to attack the same target your buddy is attacking, you would click on your buddy, you would type /assist, and I believe it'll make you target whatever he is targeting. I think that's how it works, but again, we'll have to experiment. It is no longer possible to attack mobs behind locked doors. That's the same thing. They can't attack you, you can't attack them. Auto attacks are no longer sent to the client, to queue, but instead just executed server side. This will prevent them from sometimes getting queued after another attack is queued due to latency. I noticed this quite a lot as a Terras Kasi, just because you attack so quickly that if my combat queue runs out before I click or hit another ability, that I'll usually do 1 or 2 auto attacks in between. This is interesting. Now it'll just the auto attack is not added to your queue, it's just automatically done on the server, which is really interesting. It should actually increase, auto attacks will now fire at an interval closer to a player's attack speed. It's actually going to increase the number of attacks you do, especially for slow players. I don't mean that offensively. Using /peace will now clear the combat queue. I thought they added this in Publish 7, but I guess not. But basically, that means now when you use the peace ability, because way back when, if you had a full combat queue list of different actions that you were going to take and you tried to peace, your character would continue to execute those moves. Now, as soon as you hit peace, all of those moves will get cleared, so you will actually stop attacking. All attacks that hit a single pool will now also do a small percentage of the damage to the other 2 pools as well. That's really cool, because now if you if you were a pistolier and you're grouped with somebody who's a rifleman, and the rifleman is hitting the mind and you're hitting the health, well, ultimately you're not really helping out that great. But now, no matter which pool you hit, you're also doing a small amount of damage to the other two pools as well. So it does mean that you will be contributing a little bit more to, taking out the right ham pool than you were before. So that's good. Attacks that blind, dizzy, intimidate, or stun will now refresh the duration of those states if they are already present on the target. That's good. Defense versus intimidate is no longer functional. Okay, so this is the one that I wanted to come back to. A lot of people are upset because they read this. Defense versus intimidate is no longer functional, which means it does nothing. If you have, I don't know if there are skills that give you defense versus intimidate. I don't think they are, but maybe like clothing mods or armor attachments. They're not going to do anything anymore. But if you remember previously, one of the patch notes is that enemy NPCs will no longer use Intimidate or Force Intimidate. So the only things I believe that could do Intimidate now are players, or I think maybe creature handler pets. I'm not certain on that. But again, experimenting. The intimidation state applied from multiple sources will no longer stack its effects. Warcry and similar delays will now delay more types of actions, including posture changes, squad leader commands, and species innate abilities. That's really cool because, like, now if you Warcry someone and then knock them down, it's going to take them longer to stand back up, especially if they're dizzy. Like, if they're dizzy, Warcried, and knocked down, forget about it. You're dead. Fire dots should no longer be reduced by armor. That and the next one, fire and disease dots, can now incapacitate their target. Commandos viable? I don't know. Maybe we'll see a couple more people trying out Commando using that flamethrower, because before, part of the problem was, since the fire dot was actually, the damage was reduced by armor, it just wasn't worth using. But now, maybe? I don't know. I'm not going to say Commandos are going to make it into, like, the Galaxy's meta, but I'm sure a couple more people will give it a shot now. Creature special attacks with a dot component will now apply the dot to the pool that was hit with the attack instead of always applying to health, which means if something hits you with a dot attack and it hits your mind, it's going to be a mind dot. That's scary, but also much more interesting. Dots should now tick more reliably at the proper intervals, fixed many issues with combat animations. This one, I should have grouped these all together, but another huge complaint that a lot of, like, modern MMO players have with Galaxies is that the animations are very stale. But check this out. Attacks that incapacitate or kill a target will now animate properly. I used to get a lot of comments on my videos going, how come creatures are just dying? Like you walk up to a creature and it just drops dead. Like, I don't see you hit it or anything. Well, there is a bug where, in Galaxies, or in the emulator, where if the attack that killed or incapacitated a creature, that animation did not play. So if you one-shotted a creature, your character, it didn't look like your character ever went into combat, because the creature would just die and your character would just stand there. But now, that one shot will actually animate, so that you will see that. Default attacks should now play a much larger variety of animations. That's really cool, especially for Terraskasi or any kind of melee profession. If you just use your basic attack, instead of just doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to see it's going to pull from a variety of animations. Many attacks now have multiple animations that are used under the appropriate conditions instead of always using the same one. There you go. It's going to make the game look better. The use of consumable heavy weapons should now animate properly, so if you are a commando and you use a rocket launcher, you're going to see it. Same thing with grenades. If you throw a grenade, I mean, I think grenades always animated, but we'll see. Added combat fly text that denotes hit location. This was something that the game's been missing that I thought was missing, but wasn't sure. Maybe it was just because it was from a different version of Galaxies, but now when you hit your target, or when you get hit from a target, instead of just seeing the numbers of the damage dealt, you're actually going to see, like, left arm hit, or torso hit or chest hit or head hit. It's going to tell you what part of your body was hit, and instead of just having to rely on the color of the numbers to figure it out.